Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Days Podcast along with a new video. I want to thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, viewing, watching, and listening. I truly appreciate it. We have a new Patreon / episode exclusively on Spotify as well. That will be coming out shortly. I have been working a bit on it. I think with me and exclusive content, I have been just wanting to kind of have it where you guys see it, know it's there, there's a preview. Like, I want to make sure you guys have the exclusiveness that I'm going to be giving. So, yes, I wanted to, again, thank you guys so much and talk about a new artist today. Well, they are not necessarily new, but just a new artist that we are going to talk about on the channel, on our podcast here at Days Podcast. So, we're going to talk about Luther Vandross. So, I want to tell you guys that I have been meaning to talk more on to R&B and among pop and alternative and even rock and jazz, just it's the littlest things. You know, they all connect somehow. But yes, I do want to talk about Luther Vandross's debut album. So let's get into it. Never Too Much is the debut studio album by American singer Luther Vandross, released on August 12th, 1981 by Epic Records. Mostly composed by Vandross himself. Okay, so he made this mostly himself. The album reached number 19 on the U.S. Billboard 200 and number 1 on the top R&B hip hop albums chart, and has been certified double platinum by the Recording Academy. Never Too Much earned Vandross 2 Grammy Award nominations in 1982, including Best New Artist and Best R&B Vocal Performance Male. The album's title track topped the Black Singles Chart for 2 weeks. Vandross's rendition of Dionne Warwick's 1964 song, A House Is Not a Home, became one of his signature songs and received attention for its transformation into an epic since its duration was extended to 7 minutes. In 2020, the album was ranked number 362 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time. So, considering the reviews and scores, this album did really well. Never Too Much was released July 21st, 1981, and Don't You Know That was released in December 1981. The next album from here was Forever, For Always, For Love, which came out literally by the fall of 1982. So, he had albums that were coming in pretty much back to back within a year's time, from what I'm seeing in the beginning of his career. Yes. This is one of the better R&B albums of the early 80s. That was one of the comments that were given from a critic from AllMusic. Let's see here. Yeah, all tracks were written by Luther Vandross except A House Is Not a Home, written by Burt Bacharach. I don't know how to say his name. And Hal David. So one thing I want to say, because I think the chart placement is kind of one of the things you guys may be thinking about. Yeah, back in the day, it was hard to kind of get number one for a lot of people. Like, and you think that it's not the same now? No, people be really having their faves. People be really buying copies of who they want to buy, and let's go into a fourth wall here. People do what they want to do. So Luther Vandross wanted to make sure that regardless of where he was going or what he was putting out, y'all was going to remember him, because it had to take SZA and Kendrick for people in this generation and even in my own generation to really appreciate this man with Luther. okay, for that song to go number one. So a lot of times there's things that happen in life, and I am speaking in still in the fourth wall, that you say to yourself, will people appreciate this? And it's almost like it has to take so much time for that to happen, but it doesn't. Literally, it has to be different after a while. I'm not saying he didn't have his ears, because there's more albums he put out, but for what it's worth, yeah, charting at number 19 in 1981 was an accomplishment for such a black artist. I told y'all in my previous videos, even if you're in the top 20, that's successful, especially back in the 80s. Because when they just wanted to see rock and not worry about what the black people had going on all the time, or even just any type of artist at the time, like there really was favoritism, and I gotta say still is to this day, in all genres. Doesn't matter who. Like when a song skyrockets, everyone's on it, everyone's trying to get their video, their reaction to it. That's now. Back in the day, it was even worse when it came to favoritism, because you had to really put yourself out there. You had to go and do interviews. You had to go and perform with any and everyone that would be able to take you seriously. You had to be out there back in the day. It wasn't just, oh, I'm going to go do this for this day and do this for that day. It was, I'm out here, get into me, what you know, that's what it is. And that's what it was. I know it's a little bit more strategic now with digital, inquiries, but that's besides the point. Before I even get into the track list, I just wanted to kind of emphasize, and being out of the fourth wall and just sticking on talking about Luther and his debut album, that it's just that I just feel like there were and still are artists, even in recent times, that are not fully appreciated until people wake the fuck up. And it's sad. I think that it doesn't have to even be a sense of just the artistry. There's just people that just do not tolerate what they need to tolerate. Like just there has to be a sense of balance at some point. There has to be a sense of just like an understanding when it comes to what is out and what's appreciated and what can be given. And I'm only speaking this heavily when it comes to not just Luther, but those we may have recently lost: Angie Stone, Roberta Flack. There's just certain people that have really put their all out there, or just people in general, not even to go back into the fourth wall, but they're just people in general that just put their all out there, and then people just treat them like, oh, well, you guys did that. And then and then sometime happens, and a lot of other things happen, and all of a sudden, no, why them? And it's like, yeah, life's short. People really be going through things. People really be trying to put themselves out there creatively and really want to be appreciated and really want to be known for who they are and what they are able to put out into this world. It is really a big thing. And if you have anyone in your circle that acknowledges that or sees that of you, don't take them for granted and be glad you got them, because one day we're here and the next day we gone. So love those that love you, and it's never too much. So let's get into the track list. 1 is Never Too Much. Track 2 is Sugar and Spice, I Found Me a Girl. Track 3, Don't You Know That. Track 4, I've Been Working. So considering that this is still the early 80s, 70s, transition, there's the sense of a side 1 and a side 2, because cassette tapes. So side 2, track 5 is She's a Super Lady. Track 6, You Stopped Loving Me. And then track 7, A House Is Not a Home. And I feel as though, at that time when they would do side 1, side 2, there would be certain tracks that may be longer, so they want to make sure, it kind of connects when you flip the tape. But I think this album did good for as far as my standards, I thought this album did good. U.S. Billboard 200, yep, 19. It peaked at number 19 and number 1 on the R&B and hip hop albums chart. And then U.S. Billboard 200. By the end of the year, it was number 56, and then U.S. Top R&B Hip Hop Albums Billboard at the end was number 8. So for me, when I see that, it didn't leave like the 200 chart. If anything, people were getting more into him, and I kind of was making that clear when it came to like 112, when it came to their second album, because their first album, of course they couldn't really chart as high because it's their debut album, and it was such a different time compared to 1981, 15 years prior to be exact. But still, you say to yourself, okay, well, if this is Uther's debut and he's already had peak moments before his debut anyway, yeah, it should be expected that he's still in the 200 chart, even going into the new year when there's going to be more people, Michael. But again, it was just, and again, this is 1981. This is right before Thriller. A lot of albums that I'm going to actually talk about that came up before Thriller, they did have, a great fight. Like, they really was like doing well. And then when Thriller came, that was just everything shifted. But yes, I thank you guys so much for listening and watching, and I'll be back with more.